According to its proponents, supply-side economics was supposed to do all kinds of wonderful things for the nation. Has it worked? On today's program, we'll talk about economics, the development of the Ball State University Theater, and inquire into the life of a performing artist. Dr. Arnold Cirtin, Ball State Professor of Accounting, and our first guest has some interesting views on supply-side economics. And Dr. Cirtin, I think probably, and I'm amongst them, would like to know a little more about them. It's rather confusing. Can you give us a brief explanation as to what supply-side economics is?
Yes, I can. Supply-side economics is the very opposite of the economic process we've been in for about a half a century since the Roosevelt administration. And it wasn't called demand-side economics, but that's what it was. It's really called Keynesian economics, and the Keynesian approach to the economy was to administer demand in such a way to fine-tune the economy and keep it humming along and have a good economic system. And the way to fine-tune demand is in times of recession. The government would increase its spending to put money in the hands of the people, thereby creating demand, and it would reduce taxes to put more money into circulation and creating demand, hoping that supply would respond to demand. And then in times of boom and maybe an overheated economy, the government would do some more fine-tuning by fine-tuning demand. And the government was supposed to, in boom times, to decrease its spending, to take money out of circulation, and to increase taxes for the same reason. And by fine-tuning the economy that way, why it would be kept at highly productive states. But Keynesian economics never did work because of the nature of Congress. Congress is always happy to increase spending in recessionary times, not too fond of decreasing taxes, however, at any time. And during boom times, it's very happy to increase taxes, but wasn't really fond of decreasing spending. So what we got, for the most part, was no matter what kind of times we were in, spending was increased and taxes was increased. And we found out that demand didn't really produce supply in the first place. Somebody said that only in the dictionary does demand precede supply. You make it first, and then it's demanded. Supply-side economics is based on incentives, that if you will reduce the tax load on people and allow them to keep more of their earnings, they will become more productive, they will work harder because they get to keep more of their earnings. And the result is more productivity, more supply is produced. That's why it's called supply side. And those incentives built into the system will cause savings to increase. It'll cause people who are wealthy to not specialize in tax dodges and put their money to more productive use and investment savings and that sort of thing. And in 1981, something wonderful happened to this country, and Congress actually passed a tax bill. It was called the Kemp-Roth tax bill that was based on that. Reduce marginal tax rates over a period of time such that individuals and corporations would be able to keep more of their earnings, and they would then produce more and earn more. And of course, those extra earnings are taxed.
Was President Reagan the first president in recent times to advocate supply-side economics?
No, he was not. He was the first one to name it. President Coolidge had supply-side economics. And 1921 to 23, or 20 to 22, my years aren't really clear, marginal tax rates were reduced. We actually ran a surplus in the government. Unemployment became zero. Productivity spurted up, and we had a good economic period for a long time. And President Kennedy was the next one. He didn't call it supply-side economics. That term hadn't been coined yet. But President Kennedy, if you recall, when he came to office in 1961, said this: we have to get this country moving again. Did it in a couple of ways, 3 ways. Reduced individual income tax rates in 2 downward spirals over 2 years, reduced corporate tax rates over 2 years, and put in the investment tax credit. And he did indeed get this country moving again.
Has it worked?
It has always worked.
And is it working now?
It is working now. There's no question that anybody will agree to this, that interest rates have come down in the current administration. Unemployment has gone down. Savings and investment has been encouraged. There's been increased economic growth and been increased productivity. Now, there was something that was supposed to happen that isn't well known, and lowering the marginal tax rates was supposed to increase tax collections. That's one of the things that's supposed to happen with supply-side economics. And I've been doing research for the last few months to find out if that indeed has happened. It happened in the Kennedy administration, that by lowering marginal tax rates over a couple of years, the first year after that, tax collections were lower, but the second year, they were higher. And how can that be? Well, by people getting to keep more of their own earnings, they work harder, they earn more, and those additional earnings are taxed. Now, they're taxed true at lower rates, but they are still additional revenues going into the government. And I found that in the period 1980 to 85, tax collections rose by almost $220 billion. That's slightly more than 41% over that period. And remember, we've had lower rates during this time.
That should satisfy even the severest critic, and has it?
No, it hasn't. In fact, these numbers aren't known. You look at the major media, namely large city newspapers and network news on all three commercial networks, and you find what the administration has done, has cut taxes and has cut spending. And neither has happened. A cut in marginal tax rates is not a tax decrease, because the economy does not remain static. And by cutting rates, productivity increases, more earnings, and more collections. And the Reagan administration hasn't cut spending. It would like to, but it hasn't. In this period where tax collections have risen 41%, government spending has risen more than 60%.
And there's no indication there's going to be a great decrease in government spending with all of the advocacy on the part of the administration.
There is no indication of that at all, because Congress loves to spend. When you figure 41% increase in tax collections in this period and 60% increases in spending, for every extra dollar of collections resulting from supply-side economics, there's been another $1.50 of spending.
We have about a minute, Dr. Cirtin, and I wonder if you could answer this question in that time frame. Will supply-side economics be continued by the successors to the present administration, be it Republican or Democratic?
I think it will. I think it'll continue because it's part of America. The people like it. The people believe in it. Again, you can't tell by looking at network television, but I think we're having a sort of a realignment nationally, and I think it's part of the landscape, and I consider that very good news.
Thank you very much, sir. Dr. Arnold Cirtin, Professor of Accounting at Ball State University, bringing us up to date on supply-side economics. Pia Sebastiani, Argentine-born concert pianist and Ball State Professor of Musical Performance, continues to give performances and concerts in this country, Europe, and South America. She talked with us about her March concert in New York City and plays some music that she'll perform for her New York audience. That was very lovely. Miss Sebastiani, that was lovely.
Thank you.
Is that something you'll be playing in New York?
Well, no, this is an Argentine piece that usually I use as an anchor. So since in New York there are many, many Argentine people, So I am sure that some will come, and I always like, to give them a little bit of a little gift from our country at the end. So it will be an encore. It was just a little piece of a fragment of it.
You recently, at Ball State, had your New York preview, as a matter of fact, on Friday.
Right.
In University Hall.
Right.
That was a preview of your upcoming concert on March the 4th, is that correct?
Yes, March the 4th at 8 o'clock in the Y at 92nd Street. It's a very popular place. I mean, not everybody knows it yet because, you talk Carnegie Hall or Alice Tully Hall or Lincoln Center, of course, is something that everybody knows about it. But the 92nd Street Y, since at least 10 or 15 years, has become very, very much in fashion, mainly for chamber music, ensembles, and solo recitals. For example, Bela Davidovich has played there like at least 3 times, and even Dimitri, and many famous people play there when they want something a little bit smaller than Carnegie, which is, I think, more than 2,000. This is 1,000 and something.
You've played in many of the major halls in New York, have you not?
I played in Carnegie Hall many years ago, yes. Yes.
And you've also, of course, had European tours, South American tours.
Yes.
How are these tours arranged?
Well, it depends, you see. Sometimes it's through managers, sometimes it's through organizations. For example, in Paris, I visited a manager last February, just 1 year ago, and she hired me to play in November in a series that is very, very special. It's every Wednesday after people closes the offices. After people ends working. So these concerts are at 6:30, and they are called 1 hour with such and such composer, 1 or 2 the most, and the pianist or violinist or whatever is playing. So in my case, it was 1 hour with Debussy and Schumann, and with Pierre Sebastiani. Now, what was very challenging for me is that being, of course, Claude Debussy from Paris, and so many very, very outstanding piano professionals, pianists, played Debussy. It was a big challenge for me to play it. It was kind of scary. But it's like playing, I don't know, Gershwin, in Charleston, something like that by a foreigner, But I was more than pleased because the critic in the Figaro, which is like New York Times for New York and for America, the Figaro review was excellent, and they particularly liked the Debussy, so I am very flattered.
As a concert pianist with an international reputation, where do you prefer to play? Your home country of Argentina or Europe, America?
I think all the audiences are different, and I think in every place you find, attraction and something that you like to play. Of course, I like very much to play in Muncie because I have so many friends and students and colleagues, and usually the audience is very good and very warm. In my country, of course, I usually play in the big opera house in the Teatro Colón. That is a magnificent building and enormously important. And so to play there and to be in that stage and see that marvelous thing around me, and of course the audience is warm, and it's a big emotion. I always say that besides my grandchildren, my daughter, and my husband, in the 4th place come the Teatro Colón, where I play as the 4th reason to go there very often. Now, you ask me about who organizes concerts. Sometimes for me, if it's not a manager, a regular manager, in this case in New York, is a combination of different things. Is the Inter-American Relations, which is a big foundation sponsored by other big foundations like Rockefeller Foundation, Ford Foundation, etc., and even private people. They have a magnificent building in Park Avenue and 68th Street where they do some things like lectures, small recitals, shows, art shows, and all that. But when they have something they want a little bigger, then they do it in different halls, like in my case. And it's also sponsored by my embassy, my consulate from Argentina, and of course Ball State University.
You've been with Ball State University for several years now.
A little bit more than several, more than 17.
And we have an
Yes.
outstanding faculty in the School of Music
Yes, it's
with
very-
international reputation such as your own.
Thank you.
Is it fair to say that European and South American audiences are more supportive of classical music than American audiences?
I don't think it's really fair. I don't think so. The only difference you see is that radios and symphonies and opera houses are official. They are sponsored by the government, which in some way it's more, it's not more, it's less commercialized than in America. In America, usually you see the managements, of course, they are doing a business. You see, they have to make money. It's their work. And so, of course, for an artist to make a career in the United States is very costly, and it's a lot of sponsors and things to launch someone. In Europe, sometimes, not I don't mean always, but sometimes just with the great talent, you can make a career. But of course, always you need America also as well.
Of course. Would you be kind enough to play for us something from your concert by Debussy, something you will perform in New York? Would you do that,
Certainly,
please?
certainly. I will play then General Lavigne, which, by the way, is an American personality who was in Paris in the times when was the American invasion of one-man show, like Al Johnson, for example, all that. And he was doing his show, one-man show, and then finally he ended up coming back to the United States and making decorations. Yeah, he was an American. And it's a little bit jazzy rhythms.
Ms. Sebastiani will be performing Debussy in New York City on March the 4th. For more than 25 years, Indiana audiences have been treated to some top stage productions in the Ball State University Theater. George Irving, Ball State Professor of Theater and theater manager, discusses the theater's development. And Dr. Irving, you go back quite a few years to the almost, not the very beginning, but certainly how many years?
28 years.
And that would be before Ball State Theater as we know it today.
That's right. Our summer theater was in the tent.
Ah, little tent off Riverside.
Yes, right. That's the one.
And of course you're involved in Spotlight Theater. That was, would you say, the main
That was the
stage?
name of the producing group from the late 20s to 1961.
And how far back does theater go with Ball State?
Well, to the late 20s, somewhere along the line. We have to do some more digging to find out the exact details.
Has theater always been important to the university curricula?
I think so, yes. As a matter of fact, the summer season grew out of an opportunity to provide training and experience for English teachers and speech teachers who were retooling so that they could handle their theater and drama seasons.
Of course, when you came to Ball State 28 years ago, the department consisted of one person, Dr. Ed Strother, and you doubled the department.
I doubled the size of the theater staff.
Let's take a look at the early days. We have some pictures that go back quite a ways.
This is Our Wilderness by O'Neill from 1961.
Do you remember all the productions?
I've seen most of them, obviously. This is Glass Menagerie, Tennessee Williams, which we'll be doing again next year.
Even the ones you're not involved with, you do see.
Yeah, I directed that one and designed it. Comedy of Errors, I directed that one.
How many do you direct a year?
Well, recently with the management work, I haven't been doing anything since Elephant Man about 3 years ago.
That was an interesting production.
Yeah, that was. And that's Antigone. That's the ennui version. That was what was played in France during the German occupation.
Very interesting, and a simple set. Was this the lone set, or did you have several?
That's it. That's it. The Frogs by Aristophanes.
I like that. It looks like a very interesting production.
Very interesting, especially if you dance and flippers.
A lot of fun.
Ladies Not for Burning by Christopher Fry.
A little more serious.
Yeah, a little more serious. This is The Imaginary Invalid by Molière.
I know our audience is going to identify with a lot of these.
Yeah. And there's The Mikado that we did in 1969.
Now that is quite a production.
Yes, yes, that was a big one.
Costume-wise,
yes,
and set-wise.
And makeup. And that's Brigadoon from the following year. And Macbeth from 1972.
You vary the productions from serious to light, musical and drama.
I've just picked a number of good slides.
Sure.
Raisin in the Sun, our first black play by Lorraine Hansberry.
Do you have any best that over the years you can think of?
Oh, I think we could each one of us come up with a best. That's Lysistrata by Aristophanes. And Mother Courage by Brecht, and you notice the projections used around that.
Is that a popular type production?
No, we were afraid that we were going to be able to shoot deer in the 8th row with no audience around, but it turned out quite well.
Audience-wise?
Yeah, we did quite well. Jesus Christ Superstar in 1980.
I'm sure that was very popular.
Yes, very popular. Measure for Measure by Shakespeare.
See, these are all the great ones. These are the ones that are on world stages all the time.
That's right. And that's Streetcar Named Desire by Tennessee Williams. That was just a couple of years ago, 82.
Do you have permanent set designers, or are these all done by students?
Well, some of them are done by students, but most of them are done by currently Kip Schauger, who's very, very good. A Man Who Came to Dinner, an old favorite.
Monty Woolley, I think, played
right.
in that original production.
Come Back to the Five and Dime, Jimmy Dean, done last year. A very strange and wonderful play.
Quite a busy set, too.
Yes. And then we just finished doing this. This is The Importance of Being Earnest.
We have some videotape of that production.
Do you?
Yes, the sets were beautiful.
Yes,
and acting
gorgeous.
was very good.
Yeah. We were very proud of that.
Yes. You didn't produce that, direct?
No, I'm primarily down in the office making programs and selling tickets and getting things done, that kind of thing.
Yeah. The faculty as well as students become very involved in all productions, don't they?
Oh, yes. Yeah. We get very busy.
And what reaction do you get from the audience? You appeal to an audience from a large area of Indiana.
Well, we get more than moms and dads and brothers and sisters. We get quite a group of people coming in from schools and enjoying it.
How about the direction and the growth, the future growth of the theater?
The future is really coming. We have a brand new department head, Dr. Don Lacasse, and I think he's going to move us right along. We're going to have a professional company this summer for the Summer Theater Festival. We've got a repertory theater set up for the fall coming up. I think we're just going to skyrocket.
These are expansions
Yes.
in the department.
Yes. Our department has grown by half again this year as we added dance.
We hear reference to main stage, Ball State Theater, or studio theater. Tell us the difference between the various groups.
Main stage is the 418-seat theater in which we do summer theater festival and the more academic theater during the year. Studio is mostly student-directed and is a smaller, more adjustable theater.
Would it be more innovative
Very often is.
as to script and
Scripts
everything?
and production techniques and makeup experiments and the whole thing.
Tell us what you'd like to see in the way of expansion. You mentioned a couple of areas. What would you like to see developed in
Well,
theater?
we're in the process of getting our graduate program put back together and adapted and improved. I'd like to see that come along. We are going to be having more and more young people coming in with a very, very strong interest in theater. And so that's coming.
What do we have in the way of theater coming up? Productions?
Let's see. This summer it's
Even
pajama.
more recent than that. Say
well,
in March.
In March we have, let me see, picnic. We have another dance show before the end of the quarter. And then we have the Marriage of Figaro with music, with the music department.
All in March.
Well, this is March and April and May. I'm thinking the whole quarter.
The whole quarter.
Yeah.
You will have 3 major productions on the main stage, so
Right.
as to speak.
And there'll be 2 productions in studio, Bent and Beyond Therapy. So we have about 5 or 6 shows coming up before the end of May.
Very quickly, I'd like to ask you, over your 28 years' experience, your very favorite production.
Well, I really couldn't tell you, because there are some that are so wonderful because everybody works as a unit and it all comes out. There are some that come off very slick and beautiful. I really couldn't pick a favorite.
You liked most of them.
I like most of them.
Thank
I
you
like
so
most
much.
of them.
Dr. George Irving, professor of theater at Ball State University, taking a nostalgic trip through 25 years of Ball State theater. Thank you for joining us.